If
I
you if you put your oven at 500 degrees and leave it for 3 hours, did you set your house on fire or did the oven?
Hello, I'm Colin,
And I'm Charlie.
and welcome to the C&C Talks podcast, episode 10 of season 3. And it's been a couple weeks because, and forgive me if you've heard this one before, we've had
Technical
technical
difficulties.
difficulties here at the C&C
Three
Talks
weeks in a
podcast.
row.
And hopefully we're over them. If this episode gets published, then you can assume that we'll be over the technical difficulties. We thought we were last week, but that's not quite how it went. So, Charlie, since it's been so long, let's remind the viewers what we're all about here.
Yeah, just a reminder, we release episodes every week and we talk about politics, world events, and sports. Today is April Fool's Day, Monday, April 1st, 2024, at about 8 p.m. Pacific time.
Yep. And a somewhat busy episode, as you can imagine, because we've got stuff from really the last 3 weeks, more heavily focused on recently, but we will be weighing in on some things that did happen a couple of weeks ago that we did not have the chance to speak about on the podcast previously. But we're going to
Yeah, this
start,
might be a this
Charlie.
might be a pretty long one.
We'll see. We're going to start, Charlie, with some news that just broke a few hours before we started recording this episode, which is that the state Supreme Court in Florida upheld Florida's 6-week abortion ban, but ruled that it can be on the ballot in November as a ballot initiative, as well as access to recreational marijuana in Florida. Access to recreational marijuana and repealing the 6-week abortion ban in Florida will both be on the general election ballot in the state of Florida in November. They will, I believe, both need 60% to pass. But Charlie, that's big, not just because there's a non-zero chance that Florida could legalize recreational marijuana and get rid of their abortion ban, but this is something that could drive people to the polls. This might be something that could actually make Florida competitive at the presidential level, something that we didn't think was going to happen.
Yeah, and I do want to emphasize this. This is not gonna pass. I don't think, but I think it is
Which one?
important.
Both of them?
Both of them. I do think it is important though that these do have a chance. I think that could drive voters to the polls, however unlikely it is that they are to pass.
Yeah, I think that they would definitely both pass if it was at 50%, if you just needed a majority. Definitely the abortion one, less sure about the marijuana one, but 60%, that seems to me to be just too high of a threshold for legalizing marijuana. Abortion, though, it hasn't failed a ballot initiative yet since the overturning of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court. So we'll see. 60% might be too high, but then again, access to abortion is a very popular policy position right now, and I do think it will drive people to the polls. But at the same time, I just don't buy that Florida's especially close anymore. I think that it's just going to continue to trend red. I think maybe it won't be quite as far red as, say, DeSantis won by in 2022, but I don't know if you're getting a better margin in Florida than uh, than the 2020 election when Trump won by roughly 4 points there.
Yeah, so let's move on to some Trump news. Trump is now selling Bibles. Colin, can we get a little bit more on exactly why that matters?
Matters? Not really, but I wanted to bring it up just because it's kind of disgusting. So, first of all, what's happening is, right, Trump in desperate need of money to pay off his legal troubles because, again, he's under indictment in 4 different jurisdictions and has to pay a 90 million judgment against him to Eugene Carroll, as well as nearly $500 million to the state of New York, as well as all his lawyers' fees. So he's desperate for cash, so he's now selling $60 Bibles. Now, if you're thinking that's expensive for a Bible, you'd be
Correct.
right. That is very, very expensive
Obviously, not
or
that we'd know,
Bible.
obviously.
No, but the Bible, I believe it has other things in it besides just the Bible. I think it has the Constitution, and I think the lyrics to "God Bless the USA," and it says
So,
"God Bless the USA" on the front.
is there
And
like a Trump
this
audio
is,
recording of him singing it?
I doubt that, but this is where I think it gets really disgusting, right? In the U.S. Constitution, there's something called the separation of church and state. It's right there in the First Amendment. It's really a fundamental belief of the American system. It's, I think, really a fundamental belief of democracy. And here we have it in this book that is a religious text being sold by one of the leading candidates for president of the United States. I mean, forget just the Constitution being in the same book as the Bible now. The Bible being directly sold in order to pay legal bills by a leading candidate for president of the United States when we're supposed to have here the separation of church and state. And let's remember, Trump is not in any way associated with the Christian church. He has, as far as I can tell, never gone to church. His Easter statement about wishing people a happy Easter was really just about all the liberal thugs who were out to get him. And he has been unable, when asked in the past, to quote any single passage from the Bible. But no, this is the guy that the Christians believe in. This is their guy. You know, the guy who has committed rape, who has cheated on his wife over and over again, the guy who does not go to church, the guy selling Bibles. How Christians are just okay with that and will vote for him. And that, I think, is really where it disgusts me, Charlie.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So now let's move on to the House passing a bill to ban TikTok. Our original plan for this was to have our good friend Zack on to talk about this, but considering that this is our third time trying to record this episode, we will have to get his thoughts at some point later on if this bill is to move forward. So yes, the House has passed a bill to ban the social media platform TikTok, as it is owned by the Chinese company ByteDance. I believe that the plan is to force a sale of TikTok by ByteDance to an American or an American aligned company to
Yeah, I think
more easily see which data is being sold, as to not give any more Americans information over to ByteDance who may have affiliation to the Chinese government.
Yeah, that's, I think, my understanding of it as well. And I mean, it's a difficult situation. I think it's hard to tell whether it's the right decision. I think there's a couple things. First of all, yeah, that the data that is being able to go directly to Beijing, but then also that you get on TikTok here in the United States is frankly a fairly dangerous one. It has led to radicalization. It has led to a rampant spread of misinformation and disinformation. And in China, it's an educational platform, right? For the most part, you don't get that sort of stuff. The stuff that you get here in the U.S. You don't get that in China. You get stuff that's aligned with the Chinese Communist Party. And I mean, I guess to an extent you do here in the United States as well. But what you're getting, it's a lot of these crazy challenges, some of which have led to the death of kids uh, that TikTok has intentionally pushed to an American audience so that they see that type of content. They are pushing misinformation that seemingly has some sort of agenda in that favors the policy beliefs of the Chinese Communist Party. So there are definitely legitimate concerns with this app. Now, Democrats and Republicans want to ban it for very different reasons. But as for whether it should be banned, I think it's a difficult call, but I think there are definitely valid reasons to ban it, Charlie.
Yeah, but then you run into the First Amendment problem.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a constitutional law scholar. Let's be very, very clear on that.
Yeah, and I think just something that I think is interesting is, if TikTok is to be banned, how does that affect Biden's campaign? Because a lot of younger people in their mid-20s, which is a decent voter base for Biden, would not be happy if TikTok was banned. and I can imagine that could sway the election.
Yeah, right. Here's the thing. I hate looking at it from that angle because I feel like really policies shouldn't be impacted by by politics, by the need to win elections. But I think that it absolutely is, and especially given the context of this election this year, it's a really important thing to talk about. Um, I agree. I think that if it passed, it would probably hurt Biden, possibly quite significantly with Gen Z voters. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they'd vote for Trump, but they would probably just sit the election out. Uh, how big is that group that would turn on Biden? I don't know.
Probably not
But
large, but
I
still
believe,
could have an
yeah, no,
effect.
every vote matters, right? We're expecting a very, very close election here in 2024. It is worth noting, though, Trump was in favor of banning TikTok. He tried to just unilaterally ban it in 2020. That his ban was ruled to be unconstitutional because of the way that he did it. He is now against it after he has met with a top investor at ByteDance, and I believe that
Well,
investor is paying a significant part of Trump's legal bills at the
well,
moment.
his reasoning, I believe, also has to do with the fact that he doesn't want to empower Facebook or something like that.
I don't know. Let's also talk about Trump's social media app at the moment, which is just a disaster. It became public for, I think, to help Trump get more money, like the liquid money. But the stock, which rose very quickly, almost immediately, because I guess it's Trump and people just wanted to be part of that for a short amount of time, is now, as every expert predicted, is completely crashing, and Trump is possibly losing millions and millions
Well,
of dollars,
yeah,
and he can't even make it liquid yet for at least a few more months. He can't sell his 60% of the company.
yeah, Colin, and I do think that is important to talk about, considering that if a company goes public and it's clear that the original owners want to get out of it, there will probably be a jump at the start, but generally it'll drop off pretty soon after that
Well,
because
yeah, and it's
it's obvious
also
that the owners want to get out.
well, it's also important, right? Like, social doesn't make money. They have advertisers, sort of.
Do they?
They're the exact type. Yeah, yes, they do. They have what are called sponsored truths, which is a hell of a phrase, but it don't make that much money because their advertisers are the exact type of people that you would expect. It's like the My Pillow guy and a bunch of people selling just random stuff that are mostly scams anyway, right? The platform is free with limited ads, so they don't make money really, which is why probably no one wants a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't make money and you're run by a guy who's under a bunch of indictments, and it's pretty clear that he's only doing this because he needs money right now and is going to get out of it as soon as he can, not great. Not a great move to get involved with that. By the way, just wanted to state, Colin and I are in no way know what we're doing in terms of financials. We are not nearly good enough with that to have our opinion on the stock market matter all that much.
You know what would be amazing though, and just truly hilarious,
Short it.
is if no, but well, I think a lot of people probably are shorting it, but if people on the left they bought a large stake in the company, a controlling stake in the company, and they suspended Trump's account.
Okay, but then you would have a situation where kind of like Musk at Twitter or at X like that, where it's seen as a kind of partisan move in a way.
Yeah, I mean, Truth Social is already a very partisan platform. I'm not suggesting that this is a good idea. I'm just saying it would be very, very funny if Trump once again did not have somewhere to post because he had no money.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on. Um, Vladimir Putin, Charlie, will serve a fifth term as the president of Russia after what Russia calls an election, which shows you that they still think democracy is a
Putin
well-liked
won in
thing
air
around the
quotes
world.
an
But
quote unquote election.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the best way
it
to
was
put it.
not an actual election. It was a uh, essentially they just declared Putin the winner with like 90% of the vote. There's no
Yeah, don't
free and
worry.
fair election going on here.
He
Putin
totally
is
won. He
essentially
totally
president
won.
for life. Yeah, yeah. He
Free
will
and
be
fair,
president
totally
as
free and
long as he
fair.
wants to be. Yeah. Trump's trial in New York, meanwhile, has been rescheduled to April 15th. That is coming up in just 2 weeks. That is a big deal. Circle that on the calendar. That's going to be a hugely consequential trial. There's a good chance it's the only one that takes place before the 2024 election. We should get a verdict on that in a couple months. So be on the lookout for that. Meanwhile, Ronna McDaniel, the former chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, she was hired and then promptly fired by NBC News. She lasted not even 0.3 Scaramucci's after just a revolt from
And
staff at
Colin,
NBC
can you
News.
explain for those who don't know what is that a reference to?
Anthony Scaramucci was Donald Trump's communications director for what was it, like 8 days, 10 days?
Something like
I
that.
don't even know what one Scaramucci is. It's a phenomenal unit. I think in the UK, Charlie, they probably use trusses.
It's the Liz Truss Index, yes.
Yeah, which by the way, that political party is also just a complete dumpster fire at the moment.
We'll get to them at a later point.
Yeah, probably not this week. Unfortunately, we will have coverage here of the UK elections as the races heat up. We do look forward to talking about that in the future. But yeah, Charlie, what are your thoughts about NBC News hiring and then firing Ronna McDaniel? Should they have hired her in the first place?
I think obviously you get a Republican voice, whether that is something that people want. I don't know. I think firing her that quickly, I would have given her a little bit longer of a chance, but I do ultimately think it was a good decision.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I agree. I don't think that what the viewers want to hear should impact uh, who you hire and who you don't hire, uh, because at that point it just becomes an echo chamber. At the same time, Ronna McDaniel was not the right person to hire. Um, it's not that we shouldn't have conservative voices. We should, and there are conservative voices. There's plenty of them at NBC News. Michael Steele, the former chairman of the Republican National Committee, hosts a weekend show on MSNBC. Joe Scarborough, former Republican member of Congress, hosts a morning show on MSNBC. Nicole Wallace, a former George W. Bush communications staffer, hosts a program on MSNBC at a prime spot in their lineup. It's not like there's not Republicans there. But Ronna McDaniel was the wrong choice because she was deeply involved in the plot to overturn the election. And she has lied over and over. You, as a news organization, have a duty to not platform lies. And Ronna McDaniel has done nothing except tell lie after lie. And you have a duty to uphold democracy as a news organization, to uphold the very foundations of the American system. And you should not be hiring a paid contributor who tried to overturn that. And so I think rightfully she was fired after staff at NBC News and MSNBC revolted against the decision. And I still think, though, Charlie, it does damage NBC News's credibility going forward.
Yeah, I think it does. Just this is not a great look for them, considering that you bring someone in and you pretty much immediately fire them. Just yeah, not a good look. Now let's move on to
Yeah,
Mike Pence. He has refused to endorse Donald Trump, and I think this could be good for him. It sets him up for a potential run in 2028, sets him apart from Trump a little bit, but
does it?
I think this is part of a larger trend of Trump staff really suggesting that they don't think that he is capable of being president. A lot of his cabinet said it. Now his vice president is saying it, and I think your cabinet is a large support base for you. The president picks themselves, so this is a big blow to him. I think, considering even more of his cabinet is saying that he is not fit to run.
Yeah, I think you made a couple interesting points. First of all, I disagree with the notion that this sets Pence up well, right? Pence has one primary disagreement with Donald Trump, and that is that he refused to overturn the election in 2020. That's it. Mike Pence was a very, very loyal vice president. Mike Pence is an absolute nobody. He, in a lot of ways, he still has no real way of swinging independent voters, doing really anything. There's no enthusiasm there on the right either. That's part of why he'll never get through a Republican primary, the even if the party starts to acknowledge that Trump um, lost the election, which I don't think is going to happen in the next 4 years. But even if it does, I still don't think he's enough of a guy. He has no charisma whatsoever. I just don't think he could get through a primary. But I do agree with you about the point about Trump's cabinet. Yeah, so many people there have just refused to endorse Trump, have said that he is unfit to be president of the United States. And that should tell you a lot when everybody in the cabinet is saying this guy is unfit to be president. Maybe that guy's unfit to be president. But it also shows you, and I think this is important, just how big of cowards all of them were. Because when they held their cabinet position, they had the power to invoke the 25th Amendment to declare Trump unfit for office and get him out of there. And
And they
they
didn't.
didn't do it. They didn't do it. So, how big of cowards all of them are, Charlie.
Yeah, and I can imagine though that is a not super easy space to be in. You want to support your president, obviously, for political reasons, and then when he's out of office and you're out of the spotlight, then I think it would certainly be a lot easier to give your actual thoughts and opinions on something like that without necessarily larger political ramifications.
No, I understand the reasoning behind it, but that doesn't mean that we should excuse it because at some point you have to put the country over the party, put the country over your own political gain.
Yeah, and that is an issue that I think is up for debate in the next few election cycles. Does party over country work?
I mean,
As
that's
as
clearly how it goes on definitely on the Republican side. You can make an argument that uh, there are many Democrats who do the same thing. It's but definitely a big issue on the right, especially with the members of Trump's cabinet who have said he's unfit for office but refused to invoke the 25th Amendment. All right, moving on, Charlie, to the royal family, where Kate Middleton has announced after weeks of speculation that she has cancer.
Yeah, and I think really all we can say there is we wish recovery for Kate at some point. I understand that a lot of people don't really care about the royal family very much, and I think that's understandable. But as I said, I just wish a speedy recovery. Colin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I count myself among the people that doesn't especially care about the royal family, but I do care about people that have cancer because cancer is bad, and I don't think cancer should ever be wished on somebody. And so I don't think that there's anything else you can really say, no matter how much you do not care about this person, that they at least deserve to be able to beat cancer. It
Yeah.
seems like the bare minimum.
Now let's
So
move on to some news out of Boeing. First, it was door handles. Then it was the door bolts and screws holding it in. And now it's the CEO. Boeing can't
it's
stop
about
things.
time.
Boeing can't stop things falling off their planes. Just,
No,
just to
but
note,
Charlie, it's a
just to
very
note,
good thing that
just to note, their CEO did not fall out of a plane; he was fired, and it's
didn't he
about time.
technically resign?
Okay,
Wasn't he like forced to resign? I think.
if
I
you if you put your oven at 500 degrees and leave it for 3 hours, did you set your house on fire or did the oven?
yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, this it's about time that this guy goes, but CEOs over the years have just gotten worse and worse. So I think the question is, what's the next guy going to do? How's the company going to get worse? Is it going to get worse? Probably. That's been the trend the last many new CEOs because they've cared about profits over product, and they've continued to buy back stocks while their plans get worse and worse. So we shall see. Charlie, do you have anything about the situation in Haiti?
Yeah, their prime minister is looking like more and more likely that he is going to resign. He can't even get into the country. There's massive gang violence. In fact, he can't even get into the neighboring Dominican Republic, as there's concerns that if he lands there, that could cause problems for the Dominican government, the government of the Dominican Republic as well. So we will have a lot more as that crisis unfolds.
Yep. Meanwhile, Congress has been funded. September, we have a budget. We actually did it. 6 months too late, but we actually have a budget. Caucus is not happy about it. They're not happy with Mike Johnson. So Marjorie Taylor Greene has filed a motion to vacate Mike Johnson. We'll see if that even comes to the floor. And the GOP, lots more resignations. We'll see if they can even keep the House until November. I mean, forget losing the elections. There might be enough resignations that we could have Speaker Jeffries soon. So once again, Republicans proving that they cannot govern. And then we'll end this politics section with one fairly fun story. Charlie, I said that DeSantis' campaign was probably the worst failure I've ever seen in politics, right?
Yep.
I think I've found one that's worse. Because generally, if you have a campaign website, it's probably a good idea that just anybody can create an event on that website. So RFK Jr., a major presidential candidate, we're not even going to talk about who he named as his vice president because, frankly, it doesn't matter.
Because it wasn't Aaron
And
Rodgers.
no one even knows. Yeah, no one even knows who she is anyway. It would have been hilarious if it was Aaron Rodgers, but it was
Indeed,
not.
but it was not to be.
But if anybody can create an event on your public website, create like an event for your campaign, then you're going to get some interesting things. And boy, did the memers have fun with RFK's website. There was events scheduled like RFK's suspending his campaign, an event for the dramatic reading of RFK's sex diary, because believe it or not, he actually kept a sex diary with all the women that he had affairs with, which is just an absolutely terrible idea. Yes, that's a real thing. Or the storming of the Capitol to create the first Kennedy Empire.
Wait, hang on. Is that
How do you fail this back at running a
you?
campaign? It's really sad. It's hilarious, but it's sad.
Whoever coded that website got fired. Hey, RFK, you want to hire Morris?
I think that Morris would consent to being employed by Robert F. Kennedy
I
Jr.
I doubt he would.
All right. You've got a stat for us, Charlie, this week?
Yes, I do. It is almost time for the play-in tournament in the NBA. So I thought, let's take a look back to last year. Who were the 8 play-in teams last season?
Oh, I should be able to get this. Let's see.
And bonus points if you can get who won each game.
Timberwolves were a play-in team in the West.
Yeah, they were the 8 seed.
Yeah, and they won. They played the 1 seed in the next round.
Yeah, they lost the first game and then won the second game.
Yeah, the Lakers were a play-in team, I think. They were
the
the
Lakers
7th
beat
seed.
Minnesota to get the 7th seed.
Okay, this is where the Heat. The Heat.
Yep, the Heat were the 7th seed. They lost and then won in the 8 seed game to make the 8 seed.
The other East teams are easy. The Hawks, who won.
Yep, Atlanta beat
7th seed.
Miami. They were the 7th seed.
The Raptors and the Bulls.
The Raptors and the Bulls, yep, with Toronto losing to Chicago, Chicago losing to Miami. Who were the other 2 out west?
Okay, let's see. The Mavericks missed it all entirely, I think.
The Mavericks
right?
were the 11th seed. They missed it by, I think, 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, the 11th seed isn't a thing. If you're the 11th seed, you're the 0 seed. Oh, the Pelicans were the 9.
The Pelicans were the 9, and they lost in the first game.
Did they?
Yes.
To Clippers?
No, I think the Clippers were the 6th seed.
No, you're right. No, the Clippers were the 5 seed, actually, I believe.
No, you're right.
Let's see. I'm slowly going through. It was. It was the Thunder. It was the Thunder.
It was the Thunder, and yeah, the Thunder beat New Orleans by 5, and then got obliterated by Minnesota. So with that, let's move on to sports.
Yeah, Warriors are playing down this year, and yes, Charlie, they are actually going to make the play-in.
No, Houston's gonna beat them.
No, I'm sorry, they're not.
They play on Thursday. We'll see. By the way, just to start off the sports section, we do have some breaking news coming in. In his 8th career MLB start, Ronald Blanco of the Houston Astros gets the first no-hitter of 2024.
And of course, it's an Astro. The Astros start 0-4, and then it just goes for a no-hitter. I don't like it at all. All right, we'll get to the MLB. We're going to do a full preview of the season a few days late. This is meant for last week, but we
Well, it was
will
meant for 2
preview
weeks
the
ago.
entire season. Yeah, but let's start with March Madness. We missed the first weekend, and there's a lot. So let's talk about where we are right now, and then we can go back and mention any games that we want to bring up. Final 4 teams on the men's side: UNC. Sorry, not UNC. UConn, Purdue, NC State, and Alabama. It'll be UConn versus Alabama. It'll be Purdue versus NC State. So, Charlie, Purdue could still lose to a double-digit seed this year.
Yes, they could. And by Purdue, you mean foul machine Zack, because he is the only guy on that team that I ever see score. And most of the time I
think
see him
he's
score.
officiated so soft, though.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the NBA next year.
Yeah, I think he's currently mocked generally around near the bottom of the lottery. We'll see what ends up happening there. And then UConn, Alabama. Charlie, who do you pick in both of those games to make it to the finals?
Nothing to show me that UConn is gonna stop anytime soon. I'm gonna
Exactly.
take UConn, and I'm gonna take NC State.
Yeah, I'm gonna take UConn and Purdue. I have UConn winning the whole thing, though, and I assume 2 at this point.
Speaking of which, should we give a quick update on our brackets?
I think we should not give an update on our brackets. I don't really like how it's going.
You don't. I completely lost already.
Yeah, it's very
Marquette
sad for
lost
me.
in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I can at least get the champion, I probably will. I think I would actually be pretty shocked at this point if UConn does not win the whole thing. I just think that they're miles ahead of everyone else. Right? They were in a very close game with Illinois. It was tied at 23, and then they just go on a 30-0 run, and I'm just like, yeah, no one's beating this team.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
feels
happening,
illegal.
guys. Yeah, it's not happening. I'm sorry. So the women's side, though, Charlie, has been absolutely exceptional this year. Just in terms of the growth of the women's game, too. Final 4 on the women's side. We have NC State, South Carolina, who's undefeated. UConn, so UConn and NC State, both in the men's Final 4 and the women's Final 4, incredibly. And then there's this Iowa LSU game. This was the single greatest game in either tournament so far. Just the level of play was outstanding, and the discourse surrounding the game, it was everywhere. I mean, that's all people were talking about online on Monday nights, just a couple hours before we were recording this. And I mean, the Mariners showed the game up on the big screen at T-Mobile Park Monday night, right? That is very, very rare. Iowa comes out on top. The loss in the national championship game last year to LSU. But Charlie, what especially Iowa and Caitlin Clark has done for the women's game, but also LSU, and the way that rivalry has kind of ended up over the last year or so, it's been incredible.
Yeah, it really has. And I think that match between LSU and Iowa, the title rematch from last year, just what a game.
Yeah, all right. Let's make our final 4 picks on the women's side. I'm going to go South Carolina over NC State and Iowa over UConn. It's boring, but that's where I'm at the moment. And I think South Carolina is going to avenge their loss in the Final 4 last year to Iowa. They're going to win a national championship. They're going to be undefeated. What do you think?
I'm going to say the same thing, except switch the result in the finals. I will take Iowa over South Carolina.
You picked Iowa from the start, did you not?
I did.
Yeah, I had them losing to LSU. There was a bad tournament, too, to be a 2 seed in the women's tournament. All of them out before the Elite Eight. Any other games, Charlie, that you really wanted to focus on from early in either the men's or the women's tournament?
Yeah, there was that great overtime game with Oregon. They just ran out of gas
Oh,
at
yeah.
the end. What a game that
Yeah, they
was.
did. Yeah. Also, Jack Golke, I love you. You
Yeah,
are
Kentucky
everything that
is
is
in
right with March
trouble.
Madness. I don't know what Kentucky's going to do going forward. I have to imagine John Calipari's out, but no. Oakland, the Oakland team, Jack Golke especially, is everything that is right with March Madness. This is why this is the greatest tournament. This is why we should not change the tournament one bit, no matter what Greg Sankey says. It does not need to be expanded. We do not need to get rid of auto bids for low major conferences. It's just not needed. Sure, did the Mountain West perform very well? So, not a single one of their teams underperformed their seed line. And the ACC, sure, they overperformed. Should they have gotten more teams? I mean, maybe, but Virginia was the third best team in that conference, and Virginia was horrible. So I don't think you can justify sending more teams based on what other from a conference based on what other teams in that conference did during the tournament. Because, for example, the Big East, sure, all three of their teams that made the tournament, UConn, Marquette, and Creighton, made the second weekend. But that doesn't mean that there should be more teams from the Big East. The Big East was a very top-heavy conference. Just because they all did well in the tournament, that has no bearing on whether Seton Hall or Providence or St. John's should have made the tournament. I just think it's a ridiculous argument. But one thing is clear: we do not need to get rid of bids for low major conferences. We do not need more Virginias in the tournament. We need more Oaklands in the tournament, Charlie.
Yeah, yes, we do. And you know what? Oh, by the way, just a little fun fact for you. That Oakland University, do you know where it is?
Yeah, is it in Wisconsin?
It's in
Or
Michigan,
Michigan? Oh, it's in Michigan. Okay.
because that
Yeah.
makes sense.
There's an Oakland, Michigan.
All right, should we
Uh,
give? Yes, they certainly had a better season than the A's are going to. Speaking of which,
yeah.
baseball time.
All right. We're going to preview the season, and I think how we'll do it is we'll essentially go division by division, tell you who's going to win the division. We'll tell you what other teams are going to make the playoffs from that division, and anything else you need to know about the division. Charlie, let's start out in the AL East. Who is winning that division? For
I
me,
am
I've
pulling up
got the
the standings
Orioles.
here. This is close, given what we've seen so far. And I know we are very, very much at the start of this season. I'm gonna have to go with the Yankees, as much as I don't want to say it.
Yeah, the Yankees definitely look better. Still have concerns about injuries.
Juan
Still
Soto has
have
been huge for
concerns
them, though.
about pitching. Yeah, no, I mean, when Juan Soto is playing his best baseball, there's not a better player in baseball. There really isn't. I definitely think that the Yankees will be right there, but I think I have to go with the Orioles. Their offense, it's just too good. Their
Yeah, and
pitching,
just
there's valid concerns there, but their offense is so good.
yeah, just some other notable teams about this. Tampa Bay, they lost quite a bit in the offseason. They lost Luke Raley, who was a notable piece to Seattle. I
And
don't
Wander Franco won't be
and
playing.
rightfully so. But
Yeah,
I just don't know about this team. Toronto just got stomped by Houston in that no hitter, and Boston is just confusing. I don't really know about the rest of the division. I think one of Tampa or Toronto, one of New York, Baltimore, Tampa, or Toronto will be a wild card team. One of the other four of them will win the division, and I think Boston's that fifth team that's somewhere in there.
definitely. I think Boston's probably the best fifth place team in the league this year, but they are a fifth place team. I
Now,
think that's not really disputable.
and you want to hear
I
the
think
best thing? If they were in the AL East,
what
if they were in the AL Central, they would win the division.
they might
Speaking of
they
which,
might.
let's look at the AL Central. Who is winning
Well,
this division?
one more comment on the East. Yeah, I think that there's probably only room for one wild card team from that division, as we'll get to in a minute. I think I'd probably have to give it to the Yankees at this point, but
And
neither the Rays nor the Blue Jays are bad options.
can the answer for the winner of the AL Central just be no?
Yeah, it's not going to be the White Sox. Let's be very clear about that. The White Sox are one of the worst teams I've ever seen. Um,
And that's insane
the
because the
White
A's
Sox,
and the Rockies and the Angels all exist.
The White Sox, since the All-Star break of last year, have less than 25 wins. That is
How?
bad. I don't know. I've been impressed with the Tigers so
Wait, hang on,
far.
hang on.
I've
Since the All-Star break, they have less than 25 wins.
yes,
So I just gotta
yes,
pull this up because I got it. They have less wins since July than the Brooklyn Nets.
yeah. hmm
Yikes. They
I
have the
know.
same amount of wins as the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, very very sad.
Oh. So who's winning this division?
It's um not going to be the White Sox. Not going to be the Royals. I don't think there's a bad choice between the other three. I mean, they're all not especially good teams,
And
but I think any of them could win it.
do you think the winner of this division will have a losing record?
No, but I think that they'll have less than 84 wins.
Probably. I'll take Detroit just based on what I've seen so far, but I think it'll be a tight battle between them and Minnesota at the top of the division, and I think Cleveland. I looked at Cleveland's run differential. I saw it was pretty good, and then I remembered that they played Oakland.
Yeah, I think I'll give it to Cleveland, but I don't know. That might just be the bias that I currently have as I currently
It'll be
game
a
against
first
the
round exit.
Mariners pulled up on the screen. Um, yeah,
Speaking of which,
yeah,
that
definitely.
game is a one-run game, 5-4, going into the bottom of the eighth,
Our
which I think.
listeners will already know what happened by the time
Yes,
that
you'll get to hear
this
our
episode
reactions to the
is
end of that
published.
game, though, as it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. All right.
Alright,
AL
out of
West.
the AL West. There are 3 playoff teams in this division.
That is very clear. I'm going to say what I said about this division, or had planned to say about this division before the season began, before I had the chance to see the Mariners' completely awful offense look exactly like it did, because exactly like it did last year, because 4 games, 4.5 games is not really much of a sample size. So I think that the Rangers are not going to win this division. I think just their pitching is just not healthy enough early in the season. Astros, some injury concerns, though. Mariners, not at the moment, especially, but a very injury prone roster. I don't think that the Rangers are going to win, but really, you can stack it 1, 2, 3 in any way between those 3 teams, and I will not be mad at you. I do have one hot take about this division, though. As crazy as this sounds, I think that the A's are going to end up with a better record than the Angels when all is said and done this year.
Yeah, I think that is very well possible, actually.
I will say I feel less confident about it now that I've seen that the A's actually just want to lose because they just sent down Estuary Ruiz, who just had a great series, seemingly because he did well. So
And I also think
we'll
that
see.
they actually I saw a statistic on this a few days ago. They are receiving about a third of the fans as their AAA team is right now.
Correct, which
So
is
Oakland
very,
fans are
very
not
sad.
showing up, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I wouldn't show up
Rightfully
either.
so. I support that. I support the fans not showing up. So
What
are
the
you
A's
saying
have done to the city of Oakland is a disgrace to that
so?
to that
Are you
community,
saying
to
that
the sport
Seattle
of
takes the?
baseball.
By the way, you're saying Seattle takes the West.
I make no pick here. It's that
But
close.
my thought is I was gonna. If you'd asked me before the season started who would win, I would say Houston, and then the Yankees series happened, and so I would say that they were
Yeah.
third, and then they no hit the Blue Jays. So I don't know. I think
Well,
it'll
but
be
this is
close.
also why you don't look at this small of a sample size,
Well, of course,
because any team
I
can
think
get swept in a
I
given
think the
series.
Rangers, the Mariners, and the Astros will all win 90 plus games. I think it's going to be really similar to
Same.
what happened last year. I think that the Astros are going to pull out in front with like 3 games to go. I think it'll be Astros win it. Mariners will be the top wild card, and the Rangers will probably be either the last team in, or maybe they get knocked off by a team like Tampa.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that there's pretty clearly 3 playoff teams in this division.
Yeah. Now let's move
That's
on to
my
the NL
thought at the
East.
moment.
Is this even close? Is the NL is the
No. The
no?
Braves are
It's
winning this
Atlanta.
division.
It's
The
Atlanta, and it's not
Phillies
particularly
the
close.
Phillies can hang around for a little bit. The Phillies will be the first wild card, let's be clear about that. But they're not at Atlanta's level.
Not, and
Other
they're not
teams in this division,
particularly close.
I don't think any of them are making the playoffs. I really don't.
And the Marlins are 0-5.
Yeah, and the Mets are just a disaster.
Well, the Mets are the Mets.
Yeah, exactly. All right, move on to the Central and the NL. I have no idea what to make of this division. Like, really nothing.
It's the Pittsburgh Pirates.
It could be. I've also been fooled by their hot starts before.
Oh, I forgot. Didn't they start pretty well out last year? Then didn't they lose didn't they go like 3
All
and
of their games,
23 at
yeah,
one point? Yeah.
something like that.
I'm not going to be fooled. Give me either Milwaukee or Cincinnati, maybe Chicago. I think Pittsburgh's going to do the old explosion act again. This is going to be close. Give me Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the Cubs to win this division. I do think that there's gonna be a second playoff team in that division. I think it's gonna be the Reds.
And then in the West, who you got?
The Dodgers are winning this
The
division, and it's not gonna be
Colorado
close.
Rockies.
Now the Rockies are clearly the
No,
worst team,
yeah.
probably in the National League. But
I'm going to take the
I think
Diamondbacks.
no, I'm going to take the Dodgers. I think what's interesting is how it stacks up 2, 3, 4. I think the Diamondbacks are going to be a wild card team, probably the second wild card team. Then the Giants and the Padres, I think they're both going to miss the playoffs. I think, frankly, they're both just roughly 500 teams. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
I am, by the way, I want to say, I am saying the Diamondbacks win the division for purely one reason.
Yeah.
And that's that I have a theory that no matter what team Shohei is on, he will never make the playoffs.
I think your theory will be tested this season.
I think I'll be wrong
real
by the end of the
quick.
year, but we'll find out.
Real quick, in Cy Youngs, who you got?
Oh, Susan Cy Youngs, George Kirby, and I don't know who would. I'll take Spencer Strider.
I agree with Kirby. Yeah, I'm gonna go Strider too. I think it's boring, but I think he is gonna take the next leap. We did not plan for our picks to just be the same. For MVP, I'm gonna go. I mean, it's my bias speaking. I'm gonna go.
Are you gonna say Julio?
Yeah, and then in the NL,
Mookie. I'm gonna take Mookie Betts.
Okay, so we're all the same. Oh, that's fun.
Yay! We totally didn't plan this.
Yeah. All right. Charlie, an F1 update from you.
Yes, and the impossible has happened. Verstappen didn't win a race.
That is shocking.
Yeah, he had a brake failure in the opening stages. Sainz ended up winning by quite a bit, followed by Leclerc, and so it's Ferrari 1-2, McLaren 3-4, Norris finishing ahead of Piastri, and another double points finish for Haas, giving them 4 points of the year, putting them 2 points behind Sonoda. I say Sonoda and not VCarb, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, because that's what AlphaTauri is intended to be called now.
Sure.
Because Daniel Ricciardo hasn't done nothing and might actually get replaced before mid-season break. But I think another interesting thing from this weekend was the fact that Alex Albon crashed his Williams in free practice 1, and because that team does not have a backup chassis, they forced second-year driver Logan Sargent to give up his car to Albon, who ended up finishing 13th anyway. That's it for F1. We are in Japan this weekend, and it's before, I believe, next weekend, either next weekend or the weekend next, we return to Shanghai for the first time since 2019.
All right. And with that, I think that's going to do it for this episode of C&C Talks. So make sure you subscribe. Episodes coming out every single week wherever you listen to your podcast. Our website, cctalks.com, has everything you need to know about the show, and you can call us with your questions at 360-389-2630. Again, that's 360-389-2630. And follow us on Twitter at CC Talks Podcast, and follow Charlie at CC Talks Charlie, and join our Discord server at cctalks.com/Discord. All of this information and more is in the description below. But for now, for our producer Morris and our production designer Zack, I'm Colin.
I'm Charlie, and for all of us at C&C Talks, we'll see you next week.